Hello again. This is going to be part 4 of the 3-part series. So a few of you asked about interviewing. So I wanted to just take a quick video to talk about interviewing because I know some of you are like gearing up to go on some interviews. So I wanted to offer as much help as I can and how to do that. First thing I would recommend is definitely get your Fedora, get your Reddit alien, and yeah, no, don't do that. So what I would recommend first of all is dress. It's not critical that you dress, like you're going to a wedding or funeral or something like that. Whenever I see people coming in dressed like that, it always makes me a little uncomfortable if I'm the interviewer, and maybe that's just because of how casual I tend to be, but I kind of gravitate more towards casual environments. Dress appropriate for the role that you're interviewing for. So if you are interviewing, to be a banker, absolutely dress up in your formal clothes, come in a suit and tie, and starched and pressed and ready to go. If you are, if you're going as a teacher, maybe a button-down shirt and a tie. If you're gonna go interview for a web design position, maybe you can wear some orange corduroys and a suit jacket with a button down or something. Like you can go kind of classy casual, but look at if you're a guy, look at male fashion advice. If you're a girl, look at female fashion advice. I'm not sure what subreddit that is. I'm sure there's one for that. And just it's more about like how put together you seem, and I don't seem very put together right now because I just got home. I just got home and I'm like kind of not looking like I'm ready for an interview. But when you're going on an interview anyways, it's not so much important that you are dressed up as much as you are clearly put together. Like you have a clearly intentional wardrobe and you look like you're well groomed before you go in, not stubbly like I am, but actually a little shaved up and ready to go. The number one goal when you're going on your interview is to change it, in my opinion is to change it from an interview to a conversation. So if the interview is going like this, where the interviewer is asking you question after question and you're just like, here's my answer, and then they ask you another question, you say, here's my answer, it's not going too well. Like, you can still get the job, but if you want to ace the interview, if you want to kick the interview's ass, then you need to ease the tension, make it a friendly environment, be fun, be interesting, and try to turn this Q&A session into a true conversation, so where you're actually really, like, you're engaged and you're asking them questions. It's interesting, like, a lot of times when I've interviewed people who were flat and kind of dead and whatever, then we get to the end and say, do you have any questions or something, and sometimes they'll like, yeah, I have a question, what about this? You should never have to get to the end of the interview where they ask you if you have a question. You guys should be having a conversation, you and your interviewer, to where you're able to ask follow-up questions. They ask you a question, you answer, and then you follow up with a question maybe, and that leads them to go, the answer is blah, blah, blah. And what that gets out of them is you get information about them and about the role and about the company. In your mind, I want you to imagine that you are interviewing this person, not the other way around. I want you to think about this. Your goal is to find a company that fits you. It's to find a role that you're going to like coming into work every day and you are qualified for and you're going to do a really good job. So when you're talking to the interviewer, be asking them questions to find out more about the job, so that it's not all just them trying to find out about you. You're both trying to find out about each other and try to figure out if there's a right fit here. So don't think about it like, oh, this is high pressure, I'm trying to get work so bad and blah, blah, blah. because the desperation kind of stinks on you at that point. The way you should think about it is, this may or may not be the right job for me. It's my goal in this half hour, 45 minutes, or an hour to figure out, is this the job for me? Is this really where I want to work? Are these the people I want to work with? Is this the boss that I want to have? You know, things like that. The other thing I would highly recommend is to avoid certain topics during the interview that are going to make it seem like you're not really engaged in working with them. Like, if you start asking about benefits, or you start asking about salary, or you start asking about time off, or really, you know, working from home even, that can do it sometimes. If you give them the impression that you're just a hired gun and you're not actually interested in being part of their team, then they're going to treat you like that, you know, and if they do hire you, you might get treated like that when you work for them. So the best way to do it is to think about the people that you're interviewing with as potential friends, potential people that you're going to sit next to or collaborate with or work with, and don't treat it so much as what are you going to do for me type of thing. It's a give and take thing. You're going to provide service, you're going to do a good job for them, they're going to provide money and potentially benefits and whatever, and some training maybe too. So there's a lot of give and take there. Let's see, what else can I tell you? You know, be prepared with everything. If they don't have your resume on file, bring your resume. If you have business cards, bring those. Not necessary, but you know, they can help. If they ask you, do you want water? Say yes. Being agreeable at the beginning is a good thing, because it sends kind of a message of positivity. And the other thing is, you can talk for half an hour or an hour and your mouth gets really dry on an interview. So I always take the water, even if I'm not thirsty right away, because after half an hour of talking, I can get very thirsty. And you know, there's nothing worse than your lips start smacking and everything like halfway through the interview, and it just kind of adds to the. If you have any anxiety about it, it's just going to add to the anxiety. So take the water. It gives you something to hold to if you're a little nervous about the interview, and you know, you can take a drink here and there, and that's cool. As you go through and you explain what you've been doing, try to keep your answers from going too long. You don't really want to tell your whole life story. Just stick to the last like 3 to 5 years that you've worked. If they ask further back than that, that's fine, but by and large, they're probably mostly interested in what you've been doing recently. Remember in the previous video where I talked about having projects, always, you know, always working on projects? Now is the time to talk about it. When you're in the interview and they say, so you were at this company, or you are currently at this company, or whatever. Maybe you mentioned the project that you're working on your resume or on your portfolio or something like that. You know, you can use that as an opportunity to say, yeah, and I'm actually working on this other thing, and it's really cool, and you know, that's what I'm doing right now. When it gets down to the end, odds are good they're not going to, like, it's possible that they're not going to tell you how you're doing. So what I like to do is, when it comes down to the end of the interview, when it's starting to wind down, you can kind of feel that, you know, sometimes they'll ask you a question like, do you have any questions for us? Which, by the way, if they ask you that, always ask questions, because it shows that you're engaged and interested and everything like that. The questions you should ask, by the way, let's park on that for a second. A really easy go-to question that you can go with is, how do you like working here? And that might seem like, why would you ask that? But if you ask that of the interviewer, it causes them to stop focusing on you and to start doing some self-reflection. You can look at their face and hear what the things that they're saying, and try to get a feel for what it really is like working there, because you'll be able to see kind of in their eyes, is it a pained look, or are they a little frustrated? Do they hesitate, or like, you know, it's okay, or are they enthusiastic? They say, it's great, I love it here, or you'll like it here too. So that's a question I always like to ask. Another question you could ask is, what's the culture like here? What, you know, do you guys typically dress casually? Do people have beer 30s on Friday, or is there a relaxed culture? What, you know, do you guys have, like, do you guys do parties or hangouts or anything like that from time to time? Some companies do that, some companies don't. So maybe you want to know more about the company culture. When it's winding down, though, after you've gotten kind of through that, then it's a good idea, I think, to say, so, what do you think? How well do you think that I would fit in this role? And that gets them thinking about more than just analyzing you, but actually thinking about, okay, this person, I've sat and talked to them for a half hour, 45 minutes. I know what kind of person they are. I know what kind of role I'm trying to fill. I'm going to imagine that person in that role. Yeah, I think they'd be a good fit, or maybe not, And they may or may not be able to tell you that, but you can try to look at their expression and see if you can get a read for it and see how well you did. If they're very enthusiastic and say, I think you'd be a good fit for this, maybe, then that's a good sign, So you know that you probably have some legs to stand on when you leave. Don't try to focus on closing the deal right then and there, because they are still typically, the people who interviewed you are going to tend to have to go back and compare notes and talk to each other and kind of come to a collective decision. It's kind of not typical, unless it's a really small company, for somebody to just say you're hired, like right on the spot. So let them, you go and let them go, and hopefully if they liked you, they'll make an offer or something within a day or two. If you don't hear back from them within a day, shoot them an email, thank them. Regardless, you should shoot them an email probably that same day. Even if you were given cards when you came in, definitely shoot them a thank you email and say, I really appreciate your time. It was really enjoyable talking to you about the types of work that you guys are doing, and I'm really excited about it. I think I would be a good fit for what you're doing, assuming you think you were a good fit. If you don't think you're a good fit, then you can still thank them, be courteous, and maybe even add them on LinkedIn afterwards, or ask them if you can add them on LinkedIn. But if that's not the right company for you, then don't try to work there. I mean, I think some people are so desperate to get a job that they're willing to work for people that they're going to be miserable working for. Well, I got news for you. You're unemployed right now, so you have all this time to go on interviews and make phone calls and stuff. Don't accept a job that's going to make you miserable. I mean, that sounds crazy to turn down work, but if you're doing this right, and if you're really aggressively, hunting, and you're calling all day long and emailing all day long and things like that, you can find something that works for you. But it just takes a lot of work. I mean, it takes a ton of work. So, but I believe in you. You can do it. If I can do it, you can do it, because I've done it many times. So that would be those are the big touch points, I would say, that you need to be thinking of when you're going on your interview. Be positive. Be energetic. Be interesting. If you don't know how to be interesting, read a joke book beforehand or something, or I don't know, just think happy thoughts. Imagine how happy you'll be when you get a good job, and keep that in your mind, and be positive all the way through the interview. One other thing I want to mention real quick before I go is, and I know we've gone 13 minutes here, but the last thing I want to mention is, sometimes on your resume, you have a less than stellar thing that happened. You got fired or something like that. That happens. It happens to everybody. Find a way to position it in a positive light. So if you got fired for being too slow on a project or something like that, first of all, focus more on the ways that you did a good job while you were there. You don't necessarily have to tell them why you left, but if they ask you why you left, just, there's a number of ways you can position it. One way you can say was, I don't think I was the right fit for what they were looking for. It just wasn't the right matchup for me and for them, so we parted ways. If they really dig further, you can say, yeah, I was let go, but I think I kind of orchestrated my own departure because I wasn't happy there, and I was really kind of, my mind was somewhere else. I think I was looking for something better, and the next job I did find something better. So, you know, sometimes it happens where you're no longer the right fit for where you are, and sometimes you just need to move on, and it was just one of those times where I realized I needed to move on. So try to be positive with it and try to explain from a silver lining type of direction what happened, but don't go into all the gory details. Just leave it simple and light and say, yeah, you know, things didn't work out there and I wasn't the right fit. I had to move on, but I learned, you know, a lot from there, and it was a good place to work, or the people were good. If you're too negative in the interview, if you're too negative about previous places you've worked, that can come across really bad, and it can affect whether or not you get a job offer. So be positive at all times if you can. And if there's something you got to talk about that's negative, you know, try to focus on the good part of it that happened. Alright, we're at 15 minutes, almost 16 minutes. Thanks for watching. Good luck in your interviews. You're going to do a great job. So let me know how it goes. Thanks.